Okay, the next part of my lecture on Berlin defense will be 3 games of very well-known Azerbaijani grandmaster Vugar Gashimov, who has often been in the top 10 in the world and has won many strong tournaments. So I think he does not need any representation. Okay, I played Vugar many times, and I must say I have very negative score against him because he often surprised me with some unusual moves, which at the same time were very strategically sound moves. So he has a unique talent of playing correct logical chess, and at the same time find surprising moves so his opponents would not expect them. So I found 3 wins of him in Berlin defense. 2 of them I was witness because I played the same tournament, and another one is where he beat in Monaco Magnus Carlsen. In my opinion, it's a magnificent game. Maybe according to the computer, these 3 games are far from perfect, but by the variety of strategical ideas that Gashimov showed in those games, I think they cannot be missed. So they cannot be missing. Sorry. So that's why I decided to show them. Well, the first game that I will show was his game against Alexander Onishchuk in Poikovsky tournament in 2009. I was extremely surprised how quickly he won as white. So, okay, so takes on e5. Okay, knight c3. Knight e7. Well, maybe I should have talked a little bit more about this line, because okay, it's a little bit forgotten by now, but in fact it's something that can come into fashion anytime again. So the idea of knight e7 normally is that after h3 black often goes knight g6, and okay, white sometimes plays bishop g5 check, king e8, rook a d1. I had this position many times on the board with both in white and black. Okay, now it's a little bit out of fashion. I think white is just a little bit better, but okay, who knows. Still, I remember that it was not so easy to actually prove that white will actually get something real there. I think I also had game against Borky Peridovich once, and it was also draw. So that's why I was looking very attentively to this game of Gashimov, because he introduced a new plan. He played knight e4 without even bothering for h3, and after knight g6 he played b3. So okay, it's all about a variety of ideas, because we all know that knight can go to e4 or e2, depending on the position. We all know that white often goes b3 and bishop b2, but almost nearly always these plans are taking place after white has already played h3. Gashimov is trying to prove that it's not necessary to play h3 at all, that black cannot really use the fact that white did not play h3, and quick development is much more important. So, well, Onishchuk did not react correctly, but that's why we should see the game, to see how one can use the fact that grandmaster with almost 2700 does not react correctly. So king e8, bishop b2. Well, I think bishop g4 was still a better move, but because now at least white does not have knight g5, so probably white either just allows black to exchange on f3 by playing something like rook e1 maybe. Although I have some doubts whether this was really Gashimov's idea. Or maybe Vugar wanted to play something like knight d4. So it's another important point. Very often it's very dangerous for black to take the pawn on e5 because of the open e file. So white can just give it like this. Yes, and then of course white wants to play f4. Okay, so probably Onyshuk was afraid of this. Yeah. So he played bishop f5, rook f1, knight f4, g3, knight e6. Well, this plan is known when knight comes to e6 after so many maneuvers. But here in this game it was probably a little bit out of place because white was just developing while black is maneuvering with his knight. And that means that white can just use this development advantage. And Gashimov just did it in style. So he played knight h4. Bishop g4. Well, it's knowing what happened 5 moves later, it's easy to suggest that exchanging on e4, black could still set up tougher resistance. For example, take, then rook d8, and after f4, maybe even just, well, maybe rook d2, maybe g6 first. Well, rook d2 actually seems quite interesting. So maybe f4 is even a little bit well, it's maybe it's a bit earlier. Maybe it's a little bit anticipated to play f4 now. Maybe white should first care about black's threats, saying, let's say, rook e1, or maybe rook e2 first. Yeah, rook e2 is interesting. Once again, I'm asking for an excuse for saying the word maybe too many times, but I think that in Berlin defense, the word maybe, possibly, these kind of words are perfectly justified, because in every position there are different ideas, and only when we get something like, I don't know, 25 pieces 25 pieces table bases, then we can know exactly which moves are right and which moves are wrong. Okay, sorry. There are 24 pieces on the board. So, but when the Berlin defense starts, there are actually 2 pieces more. So to understand Berlin defense, we really need 26 pieces that table bases. So bishop g4, f3, bishop h5, f4, rook d8, f5. Okay, now it's just attack is crashing, so that's why this bishop g4 was, of course, very big mistake. It's bishop takes e4 was absolutely necessary. So and knight f2. What I also like about Gashimov is that when he is better, he always plays technically very correct, but also he finds very elegant moves to prove that he's better or winning. So now he's threatening g4. Rook d2, rook c1, g5, knight g2, bishop c3, and f3, and bishop c3. So okay. Well, probably Onyshuk felt that if he just exchanges his bishop for knight, he has no chance whatsoever. But of course there is no chance, because f5 and e5 pawns are so much advanced. So he tries like last chance g4, but after knight h4, bishop h6, rook e1, it's clear that he cannot avoid the exchange of bishop for knight. So no wonder that after rook g8, knight takes f3, Onyshuk decided to give up, because after g takes f3, white can probably just play knight e4, Knight takes e4 is the only move, rook takes e4, and then king comes, king f2, king takes f3, so white will be pawn up and with overwhelming position. So, okay, of course this was not the best example of black's play, but the game showed very well how to use your opponent's mistakes if you are white.